Welcome to Hidden Horizons, a place where the overlooked stories of world history reawaken in your imagination. Here, ancient wonders and forgotten worlds are painted with words and serenity. If you enjoy journeys into the mysteries of the past, remember to like and subscribe so you never miss a story. Let us support one another as we explore how humanity has quietly shaped our world, one hidden tale at a time. In this video, we explore the civilization that rewrote the landscape. We journey back to a world sculpted by hands lost to time. Together, we'll discover how rivers, forests, and mountains became silent witnesses to ancient ambition and ingenuity. Through calm storytelling, you will glimpse the enduring marks left behind by people whose legacy is woven into the earth itself. Let the story unfold and allow your mind to wander. Chapter 1. The Veil of Forgotten Landscapes. As the sun rises through a silver mist, we step quietly into a land both familiar and strange. Shadows linger where rivers once carved deep paths, and the echo of distant laughter mingles with the calls of hidden birds. This is where mystery drapes itself over every ancient stone and lost trail, inviting us to rediscover a world forgotten, yet forever touched by those who came before. Imagine valleys where gentle fog rolls between the roots of ancient trees. The ground beneath your feet remembers every story, every footstep layered over centuries. Here, time settles softly, and traces of a civilization lost to memory glimmer beneath fallen leaves and moss-covered stones. The landscape is a quiet witness, holding secret histories deep within its folds, just waiting for patient eyes to see beyond the surface of what is. In these forgotten places, the wind carries whispers of ingenuity. Once, hands crafted tools from stone and bone that now lie hidden, half buried in the soil. The mountains hold secrets, their shapes subtly altered by those long gone, gentle slopes that were once steep, valleys widened by human intention. Every bend of land and flow of water offers a secret hint at monumental change, slowly revealing the artistry of an ancient people. Picture the rivers, flowing not by nature's will alone, but carefully coaxed and guided by unseen architects of the past. These waterways once gleamed like silver threads sewn into the valley, redirecting life and growth according to dreams lost in morning mist. In every ripple lingers the quiet determination of those who shaped the riverbanks and transformed the land, their ingenuity still felt, though their names are long forgotten. The forests, too, tell a hidden story. Trees grow in patterns that no longer match the wild, weaving their branches in silent memory of a time when every sapling was placed with care. Unseen hands once trained the woods to shelter homes, pathways, and gathering places. These remnants invite us to listen closer, to imagine how each leaf and branch remembers the rhythms of lives spent in harmony with their world, a gentle sculpture in living wood. Look closer at the earth underfoot. Here, stone circles and strange, deliberate mounds rest quietly, half consumed by time. Ancient relics lie scattered, crude tools, worn beads, fragments of pottery that once cradled water and grain. Each artifact offers a soft clue to the monumental vision once guiding these people, a silent invitation to imagine the hands that shaped not only a land, but an enduring legacy written in soil. Mist drifts through hollows at dawn and dusk, veiling the work that centuries have buried. Yet beneath every rise and shallow depression is the ghost of civilization's mark ridges where crops once grew in ordered rows, depressions hinting at canals and reservoirs. Nature and memory entwine, and the land continues to change, always shaped by echoes of innovation. The past runs just below the surface, quiet but impossible to truly erase. As we stand on these forgotten landscapes, the true magnitude of change gently begins to reveal itself. From mist-draped valleys to mountains with secret histories, we sense a story that is both beautiful and haunting. The chapter closes with the promise that these subtle marks are only the beginning. In the coming moments, we will unravel the mysteries, uncovering how the ancient reshaped the natural world and left clues for all time. Chapter 2. Ancient Visions, Living Earth. In the hush of dawn, the people step softly upon dewy grass, their breath rising into the cool air. Here, nature is a companion, not an adversary. Every stone, river, and root holds a secret. The elders gather, watching the mist drift across the land. Their eyes do not see obstacles, only invitations. With gentle reverence, they begin to... The people believe that the earth listens, that it responds to the touch of careful hands and thoughtful hearts. The oldest among them kneel at the water's edge, tracing patterns in silt, whispering thanks for its bounty. Their wisdom guides each decision. As sunlight glimmers over gentle hills, plans begin to form, communal dreams that merge memory and hope into a living blueprint, inviting every hand to shape the land with care. Together, they gather beneath towering trees, where light falls in leafy patterns upon the ground. Rituals begin, voices and songs rise in harmony, echoing across the fields and streams. Each gesture links them to the earth below. The people dance in slow, deliberate steps, their movements blessing the soil. Here, innovation is not disruption, but partnership. They find new ways to guide water, to coax life from untamed places, always with respect. Elders mark the stones by the riverbank, studying the flow as it bends in silent arcs. Through seasons and storms, they have learned nature's language. They trace lines in sand, mapping possibilities invisible to an untrained eye. The young watch, learning how to listen and see. Ideas pass quietly from generation to generation, visions of terraces rising from slopes, gardens tracing the contours of hills. Transformation, the contours of hills. Transformation begins in night falls, and the village gathers around a gentle fire. Shadows flicker on faces, and stories fill the air. The oldest voices recall how, long ago, their ancestors shaped channels for rivers curving the waters with hands and dreams. The community listens, wrapped in silence, feeling the pulse of ancient wisdom. Their hearts open to possibility. The landscape holds memory, and with every retelling, the desire to honour and reshape the earth grows stronger within them. At sunrise, footsteps lead to the riverbank, where elders speak with the wind and water. Their fingers read the stones, feeling the history of floods and flow. They trace the outlines of possible pathways, imagining gardens flanking new channels. Every suggestion is weighed carefully, not just for usefulness, but for beauty and harmony. To change the land is to hold a great responsibility. Together, they seek transformation that nourishes all who share this place. Beneath the open sky, a council forms elders, dreamers and builders all together. Each voice is heard, from the quietest child to the boldest innovator. They pass hands over coarse bark and soft earth, considering the needs of every creature, the wishes of every tree. Planning is itself a ritual, unfolding slowly with patience and respect. The boundaries between dream and action blur as their shared vision grows clearer, rooted in care for both land and care for both lair as their shared vision grows clearer, rooted in care for both. The first lines are drawn with river reeds and stones, marking new beginnings on old ground. Children giggle as they help arrange pebbles, feeling the weight of tradition balanced by the promise of change. Elders gently guide each motion, ensuring every act honours what came before. Their collaboration is quiet, steady, and filled with a sense of wonder. In these simple gestures, the people begin to reshape not just their world, but their future together. With each passing season, the landscape itself learns to yield and reply. Water flows where hands have carefully invited it. Gardens bloom in fresh terraces. The people know triumph not in conquest, but in harmony. Rituals of gratitude echo across fields, a promise to care for what has been changed. They walk lightly on new paths, always watching for the earth's response. In every transformation, the bond between nature and people. As dawn breaks anew, the elders gather one last time, tracing the outlines of their work in still air. They see not just what has changed, but what has remained true. The canvas of the land now holds memory, invention, and reverence woven together in quiet beauty. The people look to the horizon, knowing their journey has only begun. In shaping the world, they have shaped themselves, carrying forward a promise to honour the living earth, always. Chapter 3. Harnessing the Wild Waters. The people stood at the river's edge, gazing at its restless current with a sense of awe and determination. For generations, the river had both nourished and threatened their lives, irrigating the fields in spring, then rising in devastating floods come autumn. Now, for the first time, they decided to challenge its course, dreaming of a landscape transformed by careful human hands. This great undertaking began not in haste, but with measured talks and whispered counsels beneath the open sky. Elders and visionaries gathered, drawing lines in the soft earth and pondering new shapes for their world. The stakes were immense. Water meant life, but meddling with it could bring disaster. Amid these hopes and fears, a plan took root, fragile and bold as a sprouting seed. Teams assembled at dawn, their tools simple but sturdy, with every scoop of mud and stone, anxiety mixed with excitement. Each channel they plotted was a thread in a tapestry of survival and ambition. As the sun climbed, shadows played on their faces, marking the hard work and cautious optimism that tugged them forward. They were learning, step by careful step, to mould the land that had always shaped them. Fear lingered in the air, subtle as mist. What if the river broke its new boundaries, or the crops withered without its ancient floods? Yet, these worries were folded into every shovel of earth. Together, the villagers shared stories as they worked, reminding one another that shaping the land was both a risk and a promise. No one knew what the first true rains would bring, only that change was inevitable. The first channels wound like veins from the river, threading through fields that had long depended on nature's whims. Muddy water tested the new passageways, swirling around stones placed by careful hands. Each day, the grooves grew deeper, a map of hard-won resolve trickling out across the valley. For the first time, the people began to see their landscape not just as a backdrop, but as a story they could write together. Through the long days of digging, the workers became attuned to the land's whispers. They noticed how water moved, pooling where the ground dipped, and listened for the warning rumbles of shifting soil. Every moment demanded patience, for one misstep could unravel all they had built. Yet, as channels widened and water finally flowed where they dreamed, hope found a quiet foothold among the muddy banks. With each sunrise, the old river scars softened, replaced by meandering streams shaped by human intention. Children chased dragonflies along the water's edge, marveling at the patterns etched into newly green fields. Elders watched from shaded stones, their faces lined with memory and pride. The land, once a patchwork of drought and flood, was being stitched together into a shared future on careful furrow at a time. Still, the work was not without hardship. Storms lashed against earthen walls, forcing everyone to scramble reinforcing banks, redirecting spillage, learning from each sudden test. Each challenge, though daunting, was met by hands uniting in purpose, patience, and resourcefulness. The river became both a teacher and a rival, shaping its people as much as they strove to shape it. The landscape was becoming a living testament to resilience. Once the water was channeled and the first season of crops emerged, a hush of disbelief passed through the fields. The landscape had indeed changed. Where once wild currents ruled, now stood rows of green, irrigated and fed by a web of human effort. The people marvelled at their collective strength, and a sense of peace settled in, threaded delicately with the knowledge that vigilance would always be needed where humans met wild water. In time, the river and the people existed in a new partnership, a bond between nature's power and human ingenuity. The fields flourished, the floods receded, and the settlement blossomed near its winding, tamed banks. This first great challenge would echo across generations, marking the moment when the landscape itself became not just a home, but a legacy reshaped by hope, persistence, and the lessons of harnessing the wild waters. Chapter 4. Mountains as Monuments. Across the distant horizons, ancient civilizations regarded mountains not as obstacles, but as monuments waiting to be reimagined. With reverence and ingenuity, the bold curved the mighty slopes, employing patient hands and visionary minds. As the mist curled among high peaks, the land itself began to change. This transformation was careful, a balance between unleashing human potential and honouring the ancient. Great terraces bloomed along mountainsides, unfurling step by step like green ribbons hugging the heights. Each ledge provided space for crops, their roots clutching soil that would not be swept away. Generations learned from stone and rain, measuring ambition with restraint. Even as new forms were etched on weathered slopes, these terraces were built in quiet harmony, an artful solution to nurturing life without overwhelming the mountain's solemn grandeur. Carving passageways through rock became an act of both courage and humility. Workers tunneled deep beneath the mountains, seeking ways to connect distant valleys. Flickering torchlight and echoing hammers marked their journey, yet every blow was measured. The paths revealed inner worlds, vaulted stone chambers and winding corridors. Yet the mountains themselves still loomed silently overhead, immune to haste and demanding respect for every mark left behind. To build temples, roads and homes, The ancients needed stone. Mines and quarries appeared at the edge of forests and streams, their scars hidden beneath blankets of moss and careful planning. Stones were extracted with intention, each slab chosen and chiselled to fit within the natural lines of the mountain. There was ambition, yes, but also a mindful pause, a sense that even progress could move with gentleness through wild terrain. Over time, entire mountain faces bore the subtle pattern of human vision. Yet, seen from afar, these transformations blended with mist and shadows. Terraces looked as though the mountains themselves had grown new skin. Passages and quarries tucked themselves quietly into the folds of the rock. Here, ancient people accomplished bold feat carving, planting, building, yet always allowed the vastness of the land to command the final word. The relationship was never one of domination, but of careful listening. Elders passed on stories of sacred peaks and the spirits believed to dwell within. Workers honoured taboos, choosing sites and seasons with care. Even in the midst of monumental works, the mountain's rhythm shaped every decision. Humanity's mark, though deep, remained humble, each gesture a conversation rather than a conquest, marked by patience and a yearning for understanding. Season by season, the transformed mountains shaped the future. Stone stairways guided travellers and herders along safe routes. Terraced slopes protected precious crops from storms. Shelters were carved into cliffs, their entrances camouflaged among the rocks. All these changes endured across centuries, adapting as climate and culture shifted, serving both those who laboured on the land and those who would one day walk these storied paths. Rain and wind tested every human intervention. Some terraces slipped, and tunnels at times collapsed, yet the lessons continued. Generations refined their craft, tweaking the work of those before them, always striving for that elusive balance. The mountains, steadfast and ancient, watched over these efforts, reminding all that the land was never truly conquered. Mastery here was measured not in dominance, but in quiet cooperation. In whispered legends and half-forgotten songs, the mountains became more than mere landscape. They stood as symbols of a civilization's ambition, yet also its restraint. The efforts to reshape them were recounted not as acts of triumph, but as harmony's melodies played against the mountains, natural strength. Each life, each generation, became an echo within the enduring monument of stone and earth. Today, when the morning light strikes ancient terraces or lost passageways, we glimpse a wisdom carved in silence. The monument stands not only in stone, but also in the delicate way humanity learned to dwell within greatness. The mountains, shaped yet revered, invite us to ponder our own place among the landscapes we inherit, and to remember the profound balance between shaping the world and letting it shape us. Chapter 5. Forests of Purpose and Design. In the heart of ancient lands, forests were more than wild refuge. Guided by timeless hands, they became living blueprints, cultivated and shaped with intention. Here, beneath canopies woven by generations, every tree and clearing served a far-reaching plan. Shadows fell not by accident, but by the rhythms of planting and tending patterns that would quietly linger centuries beyond the engineers who first envisioned them. The reforestation that unfolded was no mere accident. Instead, it reflected deep wisdom and understanding that forests could be crafted to yield wood, shelter creatures, and even shade weather. Days passed in careful planting, spaces opened and closed in harmonious cycles. These woodlands, meticulously managed, grew not only in size but in significance, gradually supporting entire communities and shaping the fabric of daily life for those who depended on their gifts. Beneath the quiet green, ancient engineers measured sunlight and wind, choosing which trees would thrive and where. Pines soared in ordered rows, while oak groves sheltered hidden glades. The arrangement of each sapling held purpose, guiding streams or knitting earth against erosion. As forest stewards shaped these landscapes, they invited balance, creating intricate tapestries where wildness and intention were forever entwined. Their silent handiwork. Seasons cycled, and the people too cycled, walking ancient paths between carefully tended trees. Brush was cleared, gaps in the canopy filled with new growth. Fires were used with skill, sparking regeneration, nudging the land toward greater abundance. Whispered knowledge passed down, families cultivating order from chaos, allowing wildlife corridors and foraging grounds to flourish. Each action echoed the wisdom that living in tune with forests was both an art and a beyond resources. These living woods fashioned microclimate pockets of mist, gentle rains, and cool shade that softened harsh seasons. By layering tree heights or guiding breezes, ancient design shaped the very air. Streams ran clearer, the soil grew rich, and entire villages nestled within climates subtly crafted by thoughtful hands. In every rustling leaf there whispered a legacy that intentional care could transform wild space into generational patterns of clearing found their meaning, two spaces made for crops or ceremonies. With every new glade, life pulsed forth, wild herbs rooted at sunlit edges, and berry bushes tangled through the margins. Even fallen trunks served purpose, harbouring mushrooms or insects that fed the woodland web. Nothing was wasted in this cycle, as creativity met the quiet power of renewal, and forests swelled with abundance shaped by human vision and patience. Through evening mists, the intentions of bygone centuries became visible. Terraced slopes, orchard grids, and woodland labyrinths rippled across the land, signatures of hands and minds long departed. With time, the design endured even as memory faded. Visitors could trace forgotten boundaries beneath the soil or spot the remains of timber temples, sensing through silent shapes how ancient peoples harmonized hope, necessity, and the rhythms of nature itself. Animals, both wild and cared for, flourished amid these forests. Deer wove pathways between managed groves, while birds nested among fruit-laden branches and insects thrived in sunlit clearings. With each generation, new life arose from thoughtful stewardship. These ancient woods became living, bridge-linking people to place, and past to future anchoring the bustling heart of civilization firmly in the work and wonder undertaken beneath the emerald canopy. As seasons folded into centuries, legends grew around the ancient forest builders. Elders told how some woods had been planted to mark sacred days or signaled the change of kings. Others were prized for the shelter they gave during storms, or for the rare blooms that appeared just once each lifetime. Imagination and practicality mingled, and in these living chronicles of the land, each tree continued to hold stories older than memory itself. Today, when modern eyes wander ancient woodland paths, the intentional patterns still endure. Subtle spirals, straight rows, and mysterious clearings offer quiet clues to a civilization's silent handiwork. To walk beneath these crafted canopies is to step into an unbroken lineage, the land itself still echoing with dreams and designs centuries in the making. The forests remain as living archives of purpose, quietly shaping the world long after their original. Chapter 6. Sacred Spaces in Earth and Stone. Across vast landscapes shaped by ancient hands, sacred sites rise quietly from the mist temples nestled into hillsides, quiet groves encircled by moss, and megaliths standing sentry in open fields. These places are not merely built but carefully woven into nature itself, their orientation, stones, and stories all chosen with intention. It is here that engineering meets ritual, and moving deeper into the story. Imagine the hush that settles over a stone circle at dawn, or the soft echo beneath the vaulted ceilings of a forest shrine. These sacred spaces do more than mark territory. They invite connection, reflection, and reverence. Carved in earth and anchored in tradition, they reflect the deep trust ancient people placed in the landscape, believing the land itself could hold and amplify their spiritual hopes. The location of each site was never random. Temples aligned with the solstice sunrise, groves carefully tended to mimic the sacred order believed to govern the heavens. Even the placement of a single standing stone involved calculation, dreams, and ritual. This intertwining of belief and planning is the true signature of these lost civilizations, where prayer and architecture were inseparable, and every stone carried spiritual intention. In some places, the land was shaped just for ceremony. Rivers were redirected so water could flow beside sanctuaries, reflecting sunlight on feast days. Slopes were terraced into stepped platforms, each level hosting rituals for different seasons. Forest groves, left untouched amid fields, became living temples, their trees wrapped with woven cloth and whispered prayers. In these settings, transformation was not just physical, but also spiritual. The air around these sacred spaces seemed always charged. At certain times when fog rolled in, or the stars, Aligned priests, healers, and villagers gathered, believing the veil between worlds thinned. Stone markers became focal points for festivals and quiet moments alike, each ceremony a conversation with the earth. Through these rituals, people honored cycles of birth, harvest, and renewal, inviting divine presence into everyday life. Legends whispered that some megaliths could heal or foretell the future. Visitors left tokens in hidden crevices, seeking guidance or expressing gratitude. It was believed the stones themselves remembered these offerings, storing echoes of every wish and promise. Over generations, layers of meaning gathered, and the very atmosphere of these sites thickened with memory. Even now, many feel a hush or gentle awe upon entering such places. Sometimes, whole mountains were considered sacred. Pilgrims walked winding paths carved directly into the stone, each step part of a ritual journey upward. Along the way, small shrines marked moments for prayer or contemplation. The summit offered clear views in all directions, vantage point to sense the immensity of the world and, perhaps, touch the divine. These ascents linked the physical struggle of the climb with a spiritual awakening. Groves, sacred since time out of mind, held ancient trees believed to be living bridges between worlds. In seasonal ceremonies, elders and children circled their trunks, chanting stories older than memory. No axes touched these woods. All changes were subtle offering stones placed at roots, flowers threaded in branches. These groves remained sanctuaries both for wildlife and for generations who found meaning in their silent guardianship. Stonework, too, carried spiritual purpose. Engravings depicted cycles of the sun and moon, animals sacred to the community, and mysterious glyphs marking important events. Some patterns were believed to channel Earth's energy, guiding it through temples and across thresholds. Builders combined precision with belief, treating each carving as a conversation with invisible forces. Thus, every surface became a silent but enduring prayer in stone. As centuries passed, nature and these sacred spaces learned to live together. Roots wound around temple walls, and lichens softened the faces of old stones. Sacredness lingered, adapting to the changing world but never fading. People remembered the stories, returned to the rituals, and kept watch over the old places. In the quiet harmony of earth and stone, the spirit of ancient transformation is preserved, inviting awe even now. Chapter 7. Networks of travel and ties. Across ancient landscapes, faint lines appeared, threading through valleys and over rivers. Roads unfurled beneath patient feet, bridges spanned restless waters, while silent canals guided slow-moving boats. These were the veins of a civilization in motion, built not only of stones and timber, but of kinship, ambition, and the longing to connect what seemed far. Each route told its own story, whispering of journeys begun and destinies. By dawn or dusk, travellers set out along these pathways, merchants, pilgrims, messengers each, one with dreams or duties shaping their steps. Dust rose in the wake of caravans, and sometimes strangers became friends along the way. Roads guided them to new markets or sacred grounds, across wild hills and gentle plains. These trails, old as hope itself, carefully stitched the diverse fabric of distant communities, drawing the far and near close together. Bridges played their silent part, arching over wide rivers that once divided people. With every stone laid, uncertainty faded, connections grew strong. Crossing a bridge was more than a step over water, it was a passage into new alliances, laughter echoing across the planks in quiet celebration. Children marvelled at the world opposite their village, while merchants glanced at the sky, already thinking of the next crossing in their endless rounds of trade. Canals wound like ribbons through the countryside, patient and purposeful. Built with hands rough from labour, they redirected streams, fed fields, and opened routes for boats laden with grain or pottery. Along their banks, willows wept and birds sang to passing crews, while distant villagers waited for the soft ripple of arrival. The water-bound networks were lifelines, invisible latticework supporting lives, livelihoods, and the gentle flow of stories old and new. Journeys were rarely simple or swift. Sometimes a trader met storms and swollen rivers, or a pilgrim lost their way beneath the wide open sky. Yet the promise of reaching a far-flung kin, finding a hidden shrine, or discovering a new market kept them pressing onward. The roads and rivers remembered every journey, each worn track or faded marker, a quiet record of all who risked the unknown to weave communities closer together. Sacred sites drew travelers from villages scattered across mountains or along winding rivers. Pilgrims journeyed for days, following tales and rumors toward places touched by mystery. At crossroads bridges, voices mingled in many languages, and offerings were left for safety or guidance. These shared destinations marked more than faith. They became nodes in a vast interconnected web, where bonds of devotion and curiosity linked the hearts of strangers across leagues of untamed land. Trade flowed quietly over these ancient highways, not just goods, but music, languages, and inventions. Silk and salt, timber and tales, each passed from hand to hand. What began as barter became custom, inscribed in memory and repeated with every season. The lifeblood of these exchanges was trust, a silent thread running alongside the road, shaping invisible bonds among distant settlements, and leaving traces that time, wind. Some routes skirted the wildest edges of the known world canyons, veiled in mist or forests thick with shadow. There, guides led travelers where ordinary maps faded, relying on memory, stars, and old songs. Danger waited, but so did wonder. In these remote passages, travelers found both fear and awe, and each return journey added to a growing atlas of paths. Over years, even perilous trails became familiar lines linking remote lands with the wider world. Every stone placed, every channel dug, was an act of hope across generations. Grandparents remembered building the first bridge or standing at canal banks long before trees had been cleared. Young people set out on old roads, inheriting not just routes, but the stories and lessons of their ancestors. In the silence between villages, travellers felt history beneath their feet, a quiet assurance that journeys, no matter how distant, could always bring people together. So the networks of travel and ties grew, patient and persistent. They wove together the ordinary and the extraordinary, making neighbours of strangers and weaving a single tapestry from countless threads. Across continents and eras, the invisible lines of ancient roads, bridges, and waterways carried more than travellers. They bore the dreams, struggles, and connections that made a civilization enduring, ever reshaping the world it called home. Chapter 8. Legacy in the Soil and Stone. Time has a way of both erasing and preserving. In this chapter, we walk beneath open skies where echoes of ancient work still rest, almost invisible. A river now twists differently, its old path forgotten by all but the land itself. Here, scattered stones show barely a hint of long-lost terraces. In these subtle marks, the mysteries of vanished hands whisper through wild grass and shifting earth. Beneath each step, history lies folded in soil and stone. If you look closely, the land sometimes betrays its secrets, a mound that was once a wall, a line of trees tracing a forgotten irrigation canal. These signs remain, quiet but persistent, speaking of dreams and ambitions that once shaped the earth. The present holds close, the memories of those who carved mountainsides, now hidden beneath layers of moss and time. Terraces, once vibrant with crops, now cradle only wind and seeds carried by birds. Wild grasses reclaim what was taken, softening geometry once strictly planned. Each spring, rain brings the ghost of old boundaries into view. The ancient stones remind us. People lived, toiled, and dreamed here. A plough finally uncovers a worn relic or flake of tool, tracing a silent thread from the present to a distant, unknowable past. Sometimes change is subtle and slow. A riverbank, nudged year after year by invisible hands of water, finally returns to its ancient channel. The landscape is a palimpsest, each generation scratching its own mark atop the efforts and hopes of those before. Even now, farmers pause to wonder about the odd curve in a field, evidence of the hand of someone they will never know, centuries gone in the mists of history. Not all has survived the long passage of time. Stones that once formed roads and aqueducts sink under a weight of centuries, fractured by roots and frost. Yet, even in their collapse, these remnants shape today's world-directing streams, defining paths for animals and people alike. The oldest marks do not call out. They rest, content to influence in silence, their purpose drifting from memory, yet still present beneath surface calm. There is a certain mystery in wandering these ancient places. In quiet moments, standing atop an overgrown embankment, you sense the bustle that once filled these spaces know only birdsong and faint wind remain. Subtle ridges, stubborn stones, and faint channels speak with a tongue anyone might hear if they are patient enough. The landscape, layered with human intention, keeps its secrets just out of reach, waiting to be discovered anew. Discovery happens quietly. A child finds a polished stone tool while digging in a gardenia-brief window into ages past. Researchers study maps and see how streams still follow ancient outlines, gently whispering the persistence of forgotten engineers. Every artifact, no matter how small, is a story, a silent reminder of people whose names are lost, but whose hopes for the land remain written across field and forest, remembered yet elusive. Nature remembers even as it forgets. Moss covers once grand terraces, and wildflowers bloom where crops once stood in neat rows. The land adapts, but its contours hold true, shaped by hands long gone. Some traces are faint, revealed only in the slant of sunlight or the flow of water after rain. In these moments it is possible to feel a connection, a fleeting sense of the vastness of human memory embedded in the natural world. Not every loss is permanent. Through slow erosion or rare accident, hidden layers are revealed. A broken blade traced by a finger, the faint line of an ancient road visible after a downpour. Each revelation deepens our sense of wonder and mystery. Sometimes, what returns to light changes what we thought we knew, reminding us that history is always partly veiled, with truths waiting patiently in the soil and stone beneath our feet. As this chapter draws to a close, we look over the landscape, its familiar meadows and forests, now seen as palimpsests. Ancient engineering, faded but enduring, provides a silent foundation for the present. The landscape is both an archive and a mystery, shaped by countless hands, most of them lost to time. What we find, and what remains hidden, together weave the enduring legacy of those civilizations that once rewrote the world around them. Chapter 9. Nature remade, people remembered. The once great civilization is gone, its voice is silenced, and cities reclaimed by time. Yet, the world carries traces of their presence, woven quietly into the fabric of hills, forests, and rivers. This chapter explores how the legacy of vanished hands endures not as crumbled stones, but as living rhythms in nature and new cultures who unknowingly inherit ancient dreams. Vast terraces still step above the valleys, their origins lost in memory, now blooming with wildflowers instead of grain. Canals snake quietly beneath moss and roots, feeding unseen springs. Above, songbirds nest in groves once planted by people whose names are forgotten. Human intention lingers, shaping ecosystems long after the final footstep faded, showing that memory can live on without words, held gently in an altered landscape. New generations wander these ancient works, building their homes atop buried walls, unaware of the hands that carved these stones. Children run across bridges older than legend itself. In quiet moments, elders tell storiesome times, echoes of real histories, sometimes new tales blossoming from the ruins beneath their feet. Remnants of the old civilization silently guide daily life, their gifts woven seamlessly into modern routines. The new inhabitants find shade beneath trees sown by ancestors, or gather near springs made possible by forgotten engineers. In morning mist, the outlines of terraced earth and patterned fields remind the careful observer that the past endures in the shape of the land itself. These altered ecologies become silent testaments, where resilience and adaptation echo across centuries, embracing both loss and renewal. Rivers still flow in unexpected directions, channeled long ago by minds intent on survival and shaping the world. Fish and birds thrive in habitats sprung from the imagination of those now vanished. Even wildflowers colonizing old stone walls carry forward a living memory of what people once planted and tended. As seasons turn, the land whispers quiet gratitude for all that remains active, rooted in human dreams. Soil is rich above ancient settlements, nurturing forests and fields where grain once grew. Wild boars dig up pottery shards, while roots cradle lost tools. Life thrives in places engineered long ago, each layer of earth a reminder that progress is a cycle of forgetting and rediscovery. The land bears witness, holding layers of intention, offering each new culture opportunities to adapt, create, and remember, even in unknowing ways. With time, legends arise, tales of giants who moved mountains, or gods who carved the hills. The truth of people quietly working together to transform their world blurs in memory, but persists in physical traces. The memory is not just passed down through stories, but is found in quiet moments, the curve of a riverbank, or a field that blooms in an otherwise wild land. Each is a monument to silent, lasting influence. Animals, too, remember these changes. Herds cross ancient causeways. Birds nest in trees planted in geometric patterns. Nature itself adapts and rearranges, shaping new balances within the echoes of human ambition. The resilience of the wild blended with the remnants of civilization creates new harmonies, proof that life reclaims and transforms, often in ways that were never intended, and always with traces of what came before. Centuries pass, and the old meanings fade, yet the marks remain. A garden gone wild, a path carved through generations, a hill shaped to catch the morning sun. Each remembers, in its own quiet way, the presence of those long gone. Their contributions endure not as monuments to power, but as shared partnerships with the earth, a subtle inheritance guiding both nature and the daily lives built atop ancient work. Even after memory dims and stories transform, the influence of human hands ripples through time. Every blossom growing where a canal once flowed, every settlement perched on an old terrace, carries echoes of purpose and hope. In this way, the vanished civilization lives on, its resilience and imagination preserved as a quiet force within the natural world, and the cultures that continue, unknowingly, to walk in its footsteps. Chapter 10. Echoes Across the Hidden Horizon. As the tale draws to a close, the world around us seems transformed by the quiet threads of its own history. The rivers winding gently, the silent hills standing guard, and the ancient groves rooted in memory, all of these bear witness to partnerships long ago between people and the land. Their shapes tell stories for those who listen, echoing through each dawn and dusk in quiet resilience. Walking along these landscapes, we learn to see beyond the surface and understand the deep bond that ties humans to their environment. These are not just hills or streams, but living records of ambition, adaptation, and wonder. They hold secrets shaped over countless generations, inscribed in the curves of a riverbank or the pattern of a forest's edge. Each echo carries a hint of wisdom from civilizations past, whispering gently to those who pause to hear. With each gentle breeze that passes, the land continues to reveal its timeless dialogue. The stones, shaped by ancient hands, hold silent testimony to dreams and labor now part of the earth itself. Shadows linger where old paths once crossed, threads weaving together past and present. These echoes invite us to wander with curiosity, to see the world not as a backdrop, but as a living partner in humanity's story. The horizon holds more than we. As twilight settles over the hidden horizon, awe settles in the quiet spaces between thought and breath. There is peace in understanding that we are part of something vast and mysterious, an unfolding story written in earth and water. Ancient transformations still pulse beneath the ground we stand on, shaping our possibilities. Each subtle rise and fall in the landscape carries the memory of hands that shape new beginnings, and hearts that shape new beginnings, and hearts that dare. Night brings reflection, and in that hush we may sense the enduring spirit of those who came before. Their ingenuity and reverence for the land blend with our own hopes as watchers of these living monuments. The partnership between civilization and nature feels unbroken, renewed in each moment of mindful attention. What we choose to notation eddy in a stream, the curve of an ancient terrace becomes our invitation to join in the dance that shaped the world. The landscape's language is quiet, its vocabulary found in shapes and textures preserved across centuries. Even the smallest details, a stone smoothed by water, a tree standing sentinel, speak of humanity's subtle influence. We too leave footprints that may one day be studied, marvelled at, or simply felt as gentle echoes underfoot. In honouring these traces, we find kinship with our distant ancestors, bound together by the longing to thrive in harmony with the earth. Imagine, just for a moment, seeing your surroundings as a living storybook. Every hill, every bend in the river, every pattern in the fields becomes a chapter, carefully crafted over time. These aren't mere places. They are archives of invention, hope, and renewal. Let the echoes across the hidden horizon awaken your sense of wonder. Allow yourself to see familiar spaces anew, as layers upon layers of human and natural collaboration. So, As you look to your own horizon, whether cityscape or countryside, remember the enduring dialogue beneath your feet. Nature and civilization continue their ancient conversation, with each new season writing a fresh line. The world invites your curiosity and gratitude. With open eyes, seek out the quiet evidence of transformation around you, and let these echoes linger, a gentle reminder of your place in a story that began long before you arrived. In the calm after the journey, take a moment to breathe in the sense of scale and mystery that ancient achievements provide. Let the story settle as a gentle hum, a presence in the landscape that encourages care and curiosity. Every echo across the hidden horizon is both an ending and a beginning, guiding us to notice not just what once was, but what still could be, as the legacy of transformation continues beneath vast and timeless skies. Thank you for wandering with us across these mysterious, overlooked landscapes, for listening to the whispers of rivers, hills, and groves shaped by ancient hands. May you carry this sense of awe into your day, seeing the world's contours as thoughtful reminders of our ongoing partnership with nature. Echoes from the past await those who listen, kindly a gift from the hidden horizon, always close, always inviting us to look a little deeper.